Hello everybody, this is Havoc, and welcome back to another Ancient Empires faction overview. I want to say a couple things before we start our video going over Carthage. First off, Petilius commented yesterday and said that the tiers do matter. So I know I mentioned in the Ptolemaic Kingdom that I still wasn't sure whether or not tiers mattered or not. They do still matter, so we'll be able to keep that in mind, that tiers definitely have an effect. Not only that, I do have a dust pack that Petilius shot over to me, so hopefully that'll create some more cinematic scenes and things of that nature, really show off some good things. I do want to thank you guys for all of the support that you've been giving me. I love doing these videos, and I'm glad that you guys are enjoying them. My idea in the future, dream scenario, would be to have what I would consider to be a major faction in the morning, and then what I would consider to be a minor faction sometime in the afternoon/evening. So that would be hopefully 2 factions a day. Now that's my dream job, that's my dream goal. Doesn't mean it'll get there, but we'll try our best. As you can see, we have quite a few units or factions to go through. But other than that, let's go ahead and dive right on into Carthage. This faction is very fleshed out, so we will kind of roll through it decently quick. I'll try to do my best, and then we'll get straight on into the battle. So, for generals, we have probably the most generals that I've seen in a faction thus far. We start with the Sacred Band. Now, the Sacred Band are still going to be a very good unit, so even though they're down there at the 550 level, they're still very much a good general if you chose to use them. They don't have that great a charge value. Their melee offense isn't that great. Where they really shine is melee defense and morale. They're very high. The Sacred Band across Carthage has a very, very high morale rating, so you're always going to have a hard time routing them. Next up, we just have our Sacred Band. This is the late period. This is just a Sacred Band from the regular period, I guess. Their melee offense is a little better. Their melee defense is higher. And again, that morale. They will inspire their allies. They're disciplined. They're not going to rout. Things of that nature. So they're just a really good, solid unit to have in every Carthaginian army. Now we have Sacred Band Cav, which don't have as high melee defense and things of that nature, but they do have a very good charge value. Their melee offense and defense is par. And subpar, I guess, a little subpar. Their armor value is decent, but again, their morale is at 15. That's really, really high. Sacred Band Cavalry of the late period, your only difference is going to see an armor value uptick of 1. Whether or not you want to use that, that's up to you. Now, what really is good is we have a Hannibal Barca as our general, so we could use Hannibal Barca in all of his glory. And again, his morale rating is going to be very high. His melee offense and defense is high. His charge value is very good, as well as his armor. So he's going to be a very excellent general to use in custom multiplayer battles. And then last but not least, we have Tier 3 African War Elephants, which basically just have a very devastating charge. They do have a missile range. They do have, they shoot arrows on top, as well as they could charge into units. They do have the chance of running amok, as always with all elephants, and their morale is actually some of the lowest of all the generals. And considering their cost, I really wouldn't ever use African War Elephants as a general. It's a pretty risky move. Moving straight into their spear infantry, they have the most spear infantry that I think I've seen of a faction as well. It makes sense, that's kind of what Carthage is known for. I really enjoy spear infantry, so I'm glad that there's a lot to choose from. And a lot of these are also area of recruitment, spearmen, spear infantry, so that makes a lot of sense as well. So it looks like we have some Sicilian hoplites. These guys actually really aren't that bad. They don't have that great of armor value, but that's still an armor value of 6 is decent. An 8 morale for a tier 2, something that only costs 300 talents really isn't that bad. Where they really shine is their melee defense. Again, they're spear infantry, so that makes a lot of sense. Next up, we have Italian infantry. Now, the only real difference between these guys is slightly higher melee offense, slightly higher charge value. Their defense does actually get a little better. Their armor actually goes down though, but still that morale of 8 is still going to be very, very helpful. We have Libyan hoplites. Melee offense of 6, melee defense of 15. Armor value is increased from the previous 2, but their morale does drop, so it depends. I would actually probably go the Italian infantry over the Libyan hoplites if it was just me. Next up, we have Sicilian Spearmen. These guys are going to see an uptick in morale, a pretty decent jump from their Libyan hoplite counterparts. Their melee offense is increased, but their melee defense is decreased. but along with that, you're going to have a higher charge value and a higher morale. Mercenary Civilian Spearmen. These guys are actually pretty good. I like them. They look really cool, and they are mercenaries, so that makes a lot of sense. Their melee defense is high. Again, melee defense across these spear infantries should always remain high, and it should only get increasingly higher as we see it go along. But again, they do have what appears to be a missile, even though they don't have a missile offense rating over here. I just noticed that standard shot. But that's alright. We have some mercenary Samite spearmen. So again, area of recruitment is the emphasis here. And as you can see, probably right at about the same stats. A little bit higher melee defense, but suffering for the melee or offense, suffering for melee defense. We have Citizen Militia Spear Bearers. Now these guys are actually pretty good. They are tier 2 heavy spears. Their charge value is pretty low. Their melee offense isn't that great, but they do have a decent armor value, a decent morale, and a pretty decent melee defense. A very solid core spear infantry group that you could use. Next up, we have Punic Spear Bearers. This is the late period. These guys just basically have a higher melee defense. Nothing really too special between those two guys. Next up, we have Libyan Spear Bearers. Now, these Spear Bearers seem to be pretty common throughout these guys. What you're going to see is an uptick in melee offense with these guys. A higher armor value, but a lesser melee defense. These guys are going to inspire their allies. They're going to be disciplined, and they're going to have expert charge defense, as well as they're going to be resistant to heat, so they're not going to get as fatigued. Next up, we have Tarantine Hoplites. We are officially getting into the Hoplite section, I believe. So these guys, they have actually a pretty high melee offense rating. Their melee defense is fairly high, but their morale is where they really shine. A morale rating of 10 is actually pretty stinking good. We have Citizen Militia Hoplites. Now these guys, they don't really seem all that great, to be honest. They don't have as much morale. Their melee offense is actually less, and as is their charge value. I kind of feel they probably should be switched. But I think just because these are an area of recruitment, you're not always going to have them. I think that's why they're there. We have Punic Levies. Now these have the traditional Carthaginian sign on them, but they're really not all that much better, to be completely honest. Their melee offense goes down, but their melee defense goes up. Usually you'll see one suffer for the other. Not too bad unless you just don't have anything else to use. And last but not least, we have African Veterans. I'm going to say last but not least because I'm really going to get to the Sacred Band. African Veterans are tier 3 very heavy spear infantry. These guys are going to be obviously very veteran, very hardcore. Their melee offense is decently high for spear infantry. Their melee defense is very high. Their armor value is very high, as is their morale. And they have a cap at 5, which is understandable. So you're definitely going to want at least 2 to 3 of these to kind of keep your core, your flanks together, to keep your core troops together. And then, again, we have our Sacred Band. We have Sacred Band and Sacred Band from the late period. These guys are absolutely ridiculous. Morale rating of 15. Melee defense of 15, melee offense of 9. Their armor value is pretty high, as is their charge value. And then your Sacred Band are just going to be souped up. I mean, they're just ridiculously souped up. And they're cheap. I want to throw that out there. These guys, a melee offense of 10, melee defense of 17, morale of 15, and they're only 600 talents per. That is insane. You will not see Roman units with those kinds of stats, certainly not at that price point, which will give you a pretty distinct advantage. Let's get down to melee. Now, they don't have a whole lot of melee, but that's okay. They still have some pretty sweet units. They have Mercenary Ligurian Warriors. These guys have a very high offensive and defensive value. Their armor is subpar, and the morale is okay, but they're really going to do some good. They could kind of be used for both. They can hit that front line with that melee offense, or if they want to brace for an attack, they can certainly do that with melee defense. Iberian Catrati. These guys are actually going to be pretty good. They have a lot of unique abilities, and I'm going to scroll down over here to see them. They can stalk. This unit can move hidden in any terrain. That is crucial for ambushes, guys. They literally just won't be seen until you're too close to do anything about it. Now, there are a lot of Iberian factions that do this. So this is Iberian Katrati, so it makes sense. But that is something to consider when you're playing either as the Iberians in terms of setting up, or playing against the Iberians. You gotta be watching out for ambushes, because they can hide in any terrain. I know you're thinking, well, that's just not right, but I think it's pretty cool. They also have a snipe ability. This unit remains hidden while firing. So again, that ambush unit, if you're wanting to set up ambushes, these guys are going to be really good. They have a high melee offense and defense value. Their morale is high, as well as their armor. So not only are they hidden, but they're actually, even though they say light melee, I would actually consider them medium melee, because they will hold their own in battle, hands down, and they can see you a heck of a lot sooner then you can see them, and you're not going to see them until it's too late. They ignore terrain. They will not get fatigued by any speed penalties by terrain, which is incredible. They hide in scrub and forest. They can hide in grass. They can hide anywhere. They have that stalk value, so that's really cool. They also have guerrilla deployment. That means they can deploy outside the deployment zone. Again, ambushes, ambushes, ambushes. That's all I got to say about these guys. Campaign stealth. They can move around the campaign map without being seen, so that's something we may see implemented later with the campaign. These guys are going to be really good. I'm definitely going to put some in this army so we can see how well they work. We have Iberian Scutari. These guys are going to be some heavy-duty melee troops. They have melee offense of 12, melee defense of 15. They have a decent armor value and a very high morale. Let's bump up to Mercenary Ligurian Warbands. These guys are epic. These guys are probably almost on par with the Sacred Band, but they're mercenaries. They're Mercenary Ligurian Warbands. Their melee offense is 13, which is insane. They are capped at 5 per army, which makes sense, but even then, they're only at 600 and plus talents per, so they're really not bad. Their melee defense is absolutely off the charts. Melee defense of 16. Their armor value is very high at 11 and morale at 13. These guys just will not go away. And then, last but not least for the melee infantry, we have Mercenary Celtic Warbands. Now, I'm sure you're like, why Celtic Warbands? Why do they have all these different troops? Well, you have to remember Hannibal himself. He crossed the Alps. He subdued the Gauls. They had respect for him. It just makes sense that there were Gauls in his army, there were Iberians in his army, there were Africans in his army, there were Carthaginians in his army. It just makes sense. So these Mercenary Celtic Warbands are sick. Charge value of 6, melee offense of 12, melee defense of 14. Their armor value is very high, and their morale rating is pretty decent as well. They do have a very limited melee infantry group, but those are pretty elite units therein. Scrolling down to the skirmishers and ranged units, they actually have a pretty decent range of units. They only have 2 sets of bow infantry. They have some Numidian archers, which have some high ammunition, not so much with the power. They don't have a whole lot of kick behind them. Their missile range isn't all that great, all things considered. They have very poor melee offense and defense, but actually a decent armor value considering their light bow infantry and a decent morale. What you're going to want instead are some Sardinian archers. This is an area of recruitment unit, but in custom battles, anything goes. Ranged offense is double that of their counterparts. You are paying over triple for them though. Missile range is at 210, which is again significantly further than their other counterparts. They do have a very nice offense and defense melee stats, considering their bow infantry again. Their armor value is actually pretty stinking high for some archers, and the morale is pretty good as well. Let's get down into the slingers. We have Numidian slingers. Now they're going to have a very high ammunition rating. The ranged offense again is not that, its damage is not that bad, not that good. Missile range is going to be significantly higher. They actually have a pretty high melee defense, which is surprising. Their armor value is decent, as is their morale. But we also have Balearic slingers. These guys are made of light slingers. They are an area of recruitment unit. Ammunition of 30. Missile range offense of 5, which is 2.5 times out of the slingers. Their missile range is almost as far as possible. Missile range of 300 is insane. So all things considered, I would actually recruit these guys over these guys, especially considering these guys are a third of the price. They have a higher, much higher missile range. They have a very much higher melee defense value. Their armor isn't as great, and their morale actually isn't as great, but I would still pick Balearic Slingers every time over these Sardinian archers. Skirmishers, we got some Numidian javelinmen. So as you can see, you're just kind of taking all of these troops from different areas and integrating them. Not too bad. The ranged offense is actually pretty decent at 9. The missile range isn't that great, but they're light skirmishers. Melee defense and offense are actually pretty good. Armor value is subpar. Morale is decent. The only real difference between those and the Sicilian tribesmen are a slightly increased charge value and melee defense. Libyan javelin men aren't really going to see much of a value. The only reason why these Sicilian tribesmen are before them is because they're an area of recruitment. Going over into the late, you have melee defense increases for the Libya javelinmen. Their ranged offense actually decreases, considering that these two units do a 9. And then we have some Libyan light infantry. These guys are actually going to be a significant bump up for these skirmishers. They don't have as much ammunition. Their ranged offense gets back up to 9. Their charge value is much higher. Their melee offense is significantly higher. Melee defense actually goes down just a smidge, as does armor, but their morale goes up. Now let's get down into the cav and otherwise. We have quite a few different units of melee cav, which is pretty sweet. I'm very much going to enjoy using the melee cav with Carthage. So they have Iberian Catrati cav, which are pretty decent subpar, or I guess par cav. Their charge value is decent. Melee offense, defense is, on average. Our average armor value and a pretty good morale. You're going to bump up here. You're just going to see an actual hit with the Libyan Phoenician cav. They actually have a pretty decent hit on melee offense, but where they go good is they have a good armor value, and morale actually takes a hit. Now we get into Citizen Cav, and these guys are pretty much going to start getting into some elite stuff here. These guys actually have a decent charge value. Their morale is actually significantly higher, as is their melee offense. Definitely some good tier 2 cav to use. Libyan Phoenician cav from the late period sees an increase in armor value with a decrease in morale, but they do have a little bit higher melee defense, so it just depends on your preferences at this point. Iberian Scutari cav, a little bit higher charge value, a little bit higher melee offense, but a significant armor drop, so I probably wouldn't use them unless I had no real choice. And then we have some Italian cav. Now these Italian cav, they're actually going to do pretty stinking good. Of course, they're Italians, so they have a charge value of 7, melee offense of 6, which is higher, and then an increase in morale to 10. Sacred Band cav, this was of course going back to our general. Pretty decent strats all along, but you have an excellent morale rating overall. Sacred Band cav of the late period, all you see is an uptick in armor value. That's about it. And then you have some mercenary Celtic cav, and these guys really shine. Melee defense of 13, armor value of 14, morale of 14, armor value of 11, excuse me. I'm jumping a little ahead of myself. These guys are going to be some pretty elite troops. Skirmisher cav, we have Numidian cav, which is pretty standard for Carthage. Ammunition is low, ranged offense value is decent. Missile range is only 10 plus from the archers, the Numidian archers in the beginning. And then melee defense at 9 is okay. It really isn't that bad. Armor value of 5, morale of 8. Again, these are skirmishers. And then you have mercenary Tarentine cavalry. These guys just have some up stats, basically, is the only difference between those two. Last but not least for the troops, we have some African war elephants. They're going to have 36 in each unit of elephants. These guys are capped at 2 per army. They are quite expensive, but they will see a high missile range. They will see a good charge value and a superb charge value. Melee offense is better, melee defense not so much, and a morale rating of 10. And then, of course, you have your Oxybelles, and you have your Ballista. So, that was really quick. I'm running through all this stuff because there are so many units in this overview for Carthage. But, I'm actually thinking we may switch some things up. So, we're going to see what the battle looks like. And I hope you'll be surprised, and I hope you'll enjoy it. See you on the battlefield. Alright, everybody. I hope you're ready for this battle, because it is going to be epic and something completely different than what I've done before for any ancient empires video. So today we are fighting against the Roman Empire. Actually, the Roman Republic. And the only reason why I chose them was simply because of this man over here. I want to create another epic showdown. This is Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, the man, the myth, the legend of the Roman Republic. And then who better that he should fight against than the one and only Hannibal Barca. Let's take a look at him. Is that him? I don't know if that's him. I don't think that's him, because there's the bearded dude over there. Regardless, Hannibal Barca is in this battle. Maybe that's him? That's him. There we go. Let's take a look at him. All in all of his vain glory. He's got elephants on his crest, on his chest. He only has one eye, as he lost it in the Alps. Very fantastic. Okay, so we're going to run through our unit comps super quick, and then we're going to see how well this unfortified city assault works. Over here on my right flank, actually, we're going to go these guys first. We have 4 units of Iberian Catrati. These guys are hidden completely, not only because they're in the forest, but because of everything else. We're going to put some stakes in front of them and see if we can't get these cav to come and charge through them. So they will remain hidden for a time, but they will be found pretty soon, I think. I feel like they should anyways. Over here on the right side of the village, we have some mercenary Celtic warband. These guys are looking mighty fine, just that good mixture. See if we can't get some good screenshots of these gentlemen. There we go. Pretty epic. And then we're actually creating a little bit of a trap in every place. So we have 2 more units of mercenary Celtic warbands set up right there. We have some Balearic slingers scattered throughout the settlement as well, including 2 over here in case they decide to come swarming in over here. Now let's see, in our center column here, we have 3 units of Sacred Band. These guys do look really, really intimidating and really, really cool. I mean, look at that. Look at that helmet, man. That's a real nice helmet. These guys are looking really awesome. And so they are also setting up a bit of a trap themselves. We have some fireballs. I really want to see these things in action because I've used them a couple of times before, but they actually should make some pretty cool cinematic shots in this battle. So they're going to hold that front part of the town. Over here on our left side, we have 3 units of Tarentine hoplites, and these guys are going to be packed all in together. While not creating that shield pikeman wall, they are still definitely creating some good defense here. All 3 of those units should be able to clamber in and really hold those units. And then last but not least, we have some, I believe these are mercenary Ligurian warbands. So a little different than our Celtic friends over there, but still very much worthy nonetheless. So that pretty much precludes all of our melee infantry. Oh, actually, we do have 3 units of African veterans, simply because these guys are going to be put in reserve to act as some reserve troops. Should we need them, we'll definitely not hesitate to call on them. Alright, let's take a look at a couple other things, and then we'll get this thing started. We do have 3 units of mercenary Celtic cav. These guys are looking really cool. Their armor's really good. I'm really enjoying how those guys look. Then we have some Sacred Band cav. Now these guys are going to be more melee than anything else, so we should get to see them in the battle doing pretty well. And then of course Hannibal Barca himself. That being said, I think we're pretty much done. Let's hit that battle. I'm gonna move these guys out here, get these guys out of the settlement before anyone else can get to them. Now let's see, we are outnumbered. Oh wow, we're outnumbered by a good 2,000 troops, so we should be able to get some really good shots in here and be able to do that pretty well. And as you can see, they're already in range of our slingers, which is great. Now I'm fielding about 30 units. The Romans here, they are fielding the full 40, so definitely going to be an epic battle. These guys are running into the gate. A little stampede catcher. Our hidden units have been discovered. Let's get out here. Hold back, hold back. There you go. Get wrecked by those spears. Except for they didn't really get wrecked. Let's move these guys out into the open. And then light those fireballs because they're coming right at me. They may have lost a couple of their own troops, but look at this. Look at this. Oh, get wrecked. Get absolutely destroyed. Those fireballs are causing so much death right now. That was incredible and totally worth it. Are they being engaged over here yet? Not quite. We've got some troops over here. Let's go ahead and knock that. As you can see, they're kind of just walled up against here. They don't really know how to react. I didn't know how well those things would work, so I'm glad we tested it out, because it seems to be pretty dudsy. Come on, guys. I mean, seriously. But that was absolutely epic. I don't really know that we did all that much damage, but look at that. That is blood-soaked. They don't even know what to do with all that. And we've lit a tree on fire. Not to mention that. How many troops have they lost? Oh, they lost a decent amount. Nothing too serious, though. But let's get into the battle here. Let's see how well these guys are going to hold up. If I see they're not going to hold up very well, we will actually retreat. We may lose the troops in that engagement, but you win some, you lose some. It's pretty much how everything goes. As you can see, yep, we're already losing those Qatari. We've already lost all of them. I was not paying attention, and they really mopped those guys up pretty stinking quick. Balance of forces are evenly matched. We're going to let those guys hold there for a little bit. It's a shame I didn't really pay attention to those other guys because I really wanted to see those Qatari in action. But we can get down here. We can definitely see some of these hoplite action going on. Look at that. They're all just holding the line magnificently. Being very cautious to only use what troops are needed. That just looks really cool. Get those animations in as well. It's just looking really good. Looking really good. Get some of those good cinematic shots in. Very nice. What we got going on over here? Really nothing much at all. Which is a wee bit surprising. Let's take a look and see how these guys are doing. They're actually doing pretty good. I may actually go ahead and drop Hannibal Barca over here. The reason being, I want to give that morale debuff. Is that a unit of mine? Nope, those are plebs. Those plebs are losing. And we are definitely going to hammer and anvil these guys. They fell for that trap. Let's get our troops into there. If they are that dumb to fall into there, I will definitely exploit it. These guys actually are holding up very, very well. They only have 16 kills, but that is okay. Let's go ahead and buff him up, and let's actually buff these guys down. Morale's still at 12, so they're actually still holding up very, very well. But we're going to soak all of those troops in, and then we're going to lay that sneaky, sneaky ambush, which actually may not work all that well if they can't break that down. Alright, well, we're still working all across the field. Still, the battle is not really in our favor. But they are gonna push hard, aren't they? Well, you know what? These guys have come back. These guys aren't doing anything, so let's bring them actually out over here. We're gonna bring our Sacred Band. I really wish I could have used this other unit of little flaming, the flaming balls, but that's okay. I mean, just look at the mass amount of troops that's playing in this thing. Let's get some slow-mo, just so we can get that smooth animation in. There we go, dude. They're actually holding out very, very well. Look at that. Look at that. Oh. Oh, man. Don't let them do that to you. Overall, the animations do look very, very good. I'm very pleased with them. Forget this, we're tearing down this stuff. I'm tearing down my own ramps, or my own barricades. FYI, never use barricades unless you absolutely don't want any cav. Tear it down, boys. Alright, so we're moving. We are going to hit those guys in the back. We are actually going to drag these guys all the way around and hope that they have enough fatigue left over to really be able to do some damage. We're actually going to bring our African veterans over into that section. We're going to get that thing rid of. Then we're going to hit those guys in the back. Could actually hit all of those guys in the back and rout them all at once, but that wouldn't really be a very fun battle now, would it? Again, just giving you an idea on how absolutely crazy this mod looks. We haven't really looked over here, even though it's not going to be too bright. Nope, we didn't want to pause it. Just get that slow-mo animation in. Really enjoying those. We're over here. We're moving our troops over. And now's the time to really push. It just looks really good. Really, really solid. Look at that trail of bodies. Are these guys retreating? No, they are not. Let's get the overlay out of the way. Come on, Villetes. Die. Please. These Iberian Scutari should really start racking up kills now. We're just going to hit all these dudes in the back. And that will be another glorious charge. Let's get that thing in slow-mo as well. These guys have no idea. Ba-boom! Look at that. That is going to cause an insta-rout, most likely. Not to mention all of these troops back here. Hitting those guys in the backside. All right. Got the fire arrows coming down. That looks nitty gritty, doesn't it? And there they go routing. That whole flank is ours. Oh, they routed that unit Scutari, didn't they? Yeah, that whole flank just became ours. Let's go ahead and hit that play button. Just sit there for just a little bit. You're just buying time. That's all you're doing. We haven't hardly lost any troops. I mean, I lie. We've lost a good 1,000 troops. But that's okay. Now this spear phalanx. Let's get into there. We're actually going to buff up our own troops. Give another demoralizing war cry. Then we're going to definitely get into that battle. As you can see, these guys, their morale's starting to loosen up, especially. The morale's at 0, which means they are starting to rout. Those Cohorum Sicorium, they just can't take the pressure. Yeah. It can be a little rough sometimes. Go, go, go. There we go. Our mere presence made them rout. Oh, wow. That was a very big mass rout. So, again, oh, a very, very crucial victory for the Carthaginians. Now, the mass rout mechanic is very much based on morale, of course. It also is based on unit fatigue. So, I do want to mention that. I was kind of hoping this battle would last a lot longer, but it didn't. We're able to rout that Roman army pretty stinking well. We did have some really good placements for our troops, so they didn't really stand a chance anyways. But yeah, very, very easy, very, very well done. The Carthaginians just simply massacred those Romans. Decisive battle. I will definitely be doing another video on these guys, simply because I don't want this to seem like it was just that easy all the time. I have also, I have it on hard, which currently I think I need to put it on normal, because Spatilia said normal was definitely easier, much harder than before. But yeah, that will just kind of give a brief overview on the Carthaginians, guys. So I do hope you enjoyed them. We didn't get to see a whole lot of action in that battle, but I will be doing some more battles as the Carthaginians, just so we can get some stuff done there, so you're not going to feel left out. But I did hope you enjoy this faction overview. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I do believe Total War Center for the mod, they are going to have this playlist up on there. As soon as I have that information, I will post it on my Twitter for you to go and watch, and it will just bring you right back to the channel. But guys, again, I hope you enjoyed it. Look forward to the minor faction and or the major factions. September 30th is still the planned release date, and that will have all of the playable campaign factions, of which I will do a video over here very soon. Definitely before the 30th, so you guys be on the lookout for that as well. But other than that, this is Havoc. I'm out of here. Peace!